Hi, everybody, and thank you for watching this short video of 5 minutes with John and Mark. And you'll notice John's background is shimmering and blanked out. Mine is my kitchen, John. My partner is working up in the office, so I'm relegated to the kitchen. But there's pictures as behind me of food everywhere. It's really distracting. Which is probably I should shimmer the background so I can't actually see it. That might be better.
Your place looks a lot neater than mine. That's
So we're looking today at managing pressure to avoid burnout. Pressure being a prelim to burnout, of course, and looking at the good foot triangle that we often share on these videos. The places within an organization where we work all the way up to the top and the direction of the business or the organization. I guess we're looking quite strongly now at the bottom part of this pyramid, John, right? Ensuring that we've got well-being so that we've got enough energy and desire to start to do the work and apply our abilities in the organization. So we're very much on the foundation level of a successful organization. Would you say that?
Yeah, I do see it in that sense to a degree, but I think that if you're going to be managing things like pressure and avoiding burnout, you're going to have core competencies in place. That I think that feed definitely into the management arena. So for me, it's the bottom three layers, certainly up to middle management. So.
And definitely managing pressure is very key, isn't it? I've never heard the word anxiety as frequently as I have in the last 12 months, which indicates that there is pressure. There is more pressure. We can all speculate as to what that pressure is, world events, COVID, families, etc., etc. There's massive pressures that weren't here 3 or 4 years ago. And a lot of work pressures too, economic pressures happening now too. So we've got a number of thoughts, have we not? And we've usually planned these, John, and we have a quick chat. And I think you're kicking off today with your thought number one about managing pressure to avoid burnout.
Yeah, I think it links to your point number two. There's a model called the jobs demand resource model. I've had to read it on my screen to remember what it's the JDRM for short. So these researchers worked in a number of organisations over about a 10-year period, and what they found was that positions and roles that employ a lot of decision making are far more likely to burn out, far more likely to experience pressure, leading to stress and anxiety than anything else. And what those researchers found was that whilst decision making was high and it led to burnout and stress, the way to alleviate stress and burnout was quite simple. It was to put measures and tools in place to help people with those decision-making abilities. Now, that could be things like having a good case management system in place that reminds you of stuff, automating tasks, sending out emails, having management meetings and talking about pressures so that these decision makings are not done in isolation and people don't feel that pressure. And they show direct links to reduction in stress, increased resilience, just by applying that simple principle.
It just reminded me, actually, in the aviation world, they've been very good at this. As we all know, the safety record is absolutely incredible, given the number of people they're shifting around and the potentially dangerous environment. And the ability of the aviation industry to learn from accidents which happened because of pressure and put it into a process, a tool, has been phenomenal. So after the Kegworth air disaster in Nottingham, for example, where the pilot shut down the wrong engine, because he was convinced it was an engine failure on one side of the aircraft, whereas the crew were saying they'd seen things from the other side of the aircraft. They changed all the processes. So if you take the more recent example of the pilot who landed in the Hudson River, there was a very, very clear checklist of what to do with the aircraft, which alleviated, had huge pressure, of course, but that pressure was alleviated by having a very, very clear list of things to go through. And he eventually decided where to ditch and follow the checklist absolutely exactly, which was incredible given the pressure, but it enabled everybody to survive. So I'd back you up totally that we can manage pressure by procedurizing, if you like.
Mark, I feel so much better with you backing me up. I feel like thanks, man.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, does it, John? But it did today. It's because I'm in the kitchen. So there you go. No, I think that's a really good tip. A really, really good tip. Try and get things into a process instead of reinventing the wheel and getting under the decision pressure all the time.
Mm.
The tip that I've got to bring on this is one that I've noticed happening increasingly, is that people are acknowledging that they're under pressure, and they're actually saying to their work colleagues, look, we're in this together. Let's work on this together. Let's have less of an independent mentality. Let's be partly vulnerable and just say, look, I'm overloaded. Can you help me out? Or to get this started, the manager actually asks very regularly, is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to support? Is there anything that you need? What can we do to enable it to be easier for you? When the team sees the manager doing this, the team begins to do that within themselves. So there is an attitude then of, look, we want to help each other with the pressure. We get more of a bonding situation than perhaps we would have done. And it is a tool to enable the whole group to manage the pressure for an individual to help avoid burnout. So disclosure, you need a good trusting group where we can be vulnerable and say, look, I'm overloaded. And an attitude that says, look, I really want to help if you are overloaded. So it's trust and honesty, but I've seen it increasingly happening. And I think that's a perhaps very healthy trend.
Well, I think so. Yeah, definitely. My tip number 3 doesn't link to those specifically. My research into burnout, which is my area of expertise, links to mindfulness and how that gets applied to business.
Right.
And what I found when it comes to things like mindfulness is, for me, it's about being aware and connected. And I know as a manager myself, you know, when I was managing many staff, the thing that helped me a lot was to become aware of my own pressures and also aware of my own deadlines.
Right.
So although I wasn't using mindfulness specifically, what I would do is I would have a very clear awareness of the tasks that needed to be done, and I would prioritize and organize those daily and weekly. And I had a key dates diary, let's say, and I would manage things that way. So for me, my tip number 3 is really get good on time management, get some tools or techniques in place, or have some training, wherever it is, but get clear that becoming more aware of what our tasks are and then managing those tasks is being present and aware of what our pressures are, and that will help reduce burnout.
That's a very good point. Yeah, it's awareness of the symptoms of burnout, and I guess awareness of the things that are building up. Correct. And that can only happen if we're mindful, right? If we sit and consider the situation, look at the whole landscape instead of just react to the latest firefighting crisis. Yeah, and that's true for all of us. Some good tips there, John. Thank you. They are good tips, by the way. They really thank you, everybody, for watching. We hope that we will see you again, and join us for the next session with John and Mark for 5 minutes. I think it's 5 minutes for John and Mark, but it always goes over, doesn't it, John? For
a little bit, yeah.
Thank you, everybody, and see you again, we hope.